my wealth and every sat that I can save is the best way to do it. Like, it's the best option to save and to prepare for the future. So that gives you so much like peace in your head, like feeling that you're doing the best you can, and you actually like feel that confidence and just keep working and doing your stuff. And also this thing being worldwide, like this idea that I can actually take my stats everywhere, anywhere in the world. That's also very, like, it gives me like a lot of peace.
Hi everyone. Today we have an esteemed guest with us today. Flo, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. I'm Flo Montoya. I am a Bitcoin artist from Chile. I've been working on Bitcoin art since 2020. I also work for some Bitcoiner brands like Love is Bitcoin and Panties for Bitcoin.
Perfect. So I heard a story about like that your family was already into Bitcoin or something like that. So can you give us like a little bit of a background on how did you came about to know about Bitcoin?
Yeah, sure. I'm one of those few people who got orange pilled by her dad. So actually, I was studying arts when we like got more into Bitcoin, because the first time we heard about it, um, we dismissed it, maybe like many people do. And then that was like, I don't know, in 2013 or 14, we actually like started to really learn about it like 2016 or 17, so a lot of years in between. And I think we became more interested in Bitcoin because of the use case first. So my dad, we live in Chile, we have always lived here, and my dad for 20 years now has worked for the same company, which is a German company. And so we always were faced to this problem of having to move money around, to have to like the remittance, or I don't know the word. So he used to do it through the banks, and that was like super expensive. I mean, not super, but way more expensive than using Bitcoin. It was slower. You had to talk to people. You couldn't do it just by yourself. He was like, okay, we can try this Bitcoin thing. This might this problem a bit easier. And at the moment, there was this that time there was the time that the block hype war was happening. So he was really like looking into that. Will Bitcoin survive this or not? And after this war was like actually won, is that my dad said, okay, now we can like go deeper into Bitcoin. We can kind of trust this and trust what this is like, how people is building this stuff. And I just kind of went along, but I didn't put that much effort into it. I was just like, I don't know, being part of the conversation, but not doing the job
For
by
context,
myself.
is it okay if you mention like your age, at what age? Because I have kids also, and it would be interesting to know like at what age should I introduce them to this concept?
I hate maths, but I must have been about 25, I
Okay,
guess.
I see.
Or
So it's not like
or
too young to understand this fundamentals and concepts.
but I think you can start earlier. We're
Yes, yes,
talking with
for
our
sure. Yeah, yeah.
nephews now. For example, my nephew is here for holidays, and he asked, like, we didn't push it into himself. We were talking, what is this Bitcoin thing? You like this Bitcoin thing? Why do you have like Bitcoin T-shirt? Why do you have like whatever? And we started talking to him, and he's 14 years old, and he actually asked to have his own wallet. Can I have Bitcoin? Of course, why not? You have I mean, if you're big enough to have an iPhone, then of course you can own some Bitcoin. Well, we were like helping him have his wallet, explaining him you have to take good care of these words. These words are the only way you can recover this, like explaining all the steps and all. And this is a mobile wallet, but still teaching him through this. And we gave him like, I don't know, 20 euros. And then he was like, look, my 20 euros are now 22. And he's like paying
Was it a Lightning
attention.
wallet
And
or just
yeah, yes.
I see.
No, it was. And he said, Mom, because he's receiving how do you call, like allowance every month or something for he said, Mom, maybe a part of my allowance can be in Bitcoin. And we are telling him that some days you will see that price down, sometimes you will see it go up. This is for your future. This is a long-term thing, and I think this can teach young people a lot. They are so deep into this fast consumism culture that actually I think it will be very beneficial if we start, yeah, teaching
I
them
guess
that
it
there
would teach
is,
them about saving in general as well. So it's like
well, yeah,
when
yeah,
you
low time preference.
perfect. So for you having this already this knowledge about Bitcoin and understanding like its actual practicality, how would you say it impacted your family, like planning, financial planning, or like in general understanding of money?
You mean back in the day? Like how did we understand it?
Yeah, yeah. Like for example, you already understood like its benefit. So how did it
Mhm.
impact you compared, let's say, to someone else or some other family who didn't get this concept?
I mean, for us, it's been a blessing. Like it's the thing that's giving us hope right now. We are really going to, like, we will die on this hill. Like we're too committed for our own sake. Like, but I like it. Like, I see how much free we are in that regard. Like if I see like how other families are struggling. For example, here right now it's really hard to sell your assets at the moment. Like for example, your if you want to sell a house or if you want to sell an apartment that you have for an investment, like it's not easy. Like people is not buying. Prices are like high, but it's like an illusion because nobody's buying. So
So a
um,
bit of a recession. I think it's like a worldwide problem at the moment. So other assets maybe as not as liquid as Bitcoin.
yeah,
Mm.
and we are so blessed we don't own any of those things, and we are like we already know that, for example, if we can rent something, it makes so much more sense for us. Like we are in that way is our mind is working, and what that means is maybe I can't afford an apartment either way, but my mentality is even if I could, I wouldn't buy one now. I don't need that. And my wealth and every sat that I can save is the best way to do it. Like, it's the best option to save and to prepare for the future. So that gives you so much like peace in your head, like feeling that you're doing the best you can and you actually like feel that confidence and just keep working and doing your stuff. And also this thing being worldwide, like this idea that I can actually take my stats everywhere, anywhere in the world. That's also very, like, it gives me like a lot of peace.
So you mentioned like about traditional banking that maybe you the what got you into Bitcoin or your family into Bitcoin in the beginning was like this negative experience with banks, this friction. So how does this impact your view of banks today? Like how do you view banks, traditional banking?
Yeah, I think traditional bankings, they have to really, really evolve. I don't think they will disappear, but many of the way they work will. I think there's so much unnecessary things going on there that really is just a waste of time, of human effort, of money. And yeah, I don't like them. Besides, they also decide who gets to, like, it's a private company, but you're kind of forced to work with them. But then they decide if you are like you can be their customer or not. Like, we don't want you. I really don't like those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, likewise. And I think also it's like about sovereignty. Like the people think that the money in their bank account is actually their money, but even legally speaking, it's almost like the bank's money, right? Like they have to take the bank's permission just to get some of their money, and it's like almost like they are giving you a gift. It's not like they are just paying you back. So the relationship is a bit not fair, and yeah. So yeah, I don't like them either. So, what is would you say the most memorable experience or that you had with Bitcoin in general? Like, what would you say is the most interesting experience that you had having like deal with the Bitcoin, either the community or the network itself, or something that it helped you do? Or
Yeah, I think so far for me, the greatest experience has been from one side, like this freedom that I told you, but also, yeah, the community, like being able to talk about this stuff. Because when you're in normie world and you try talking about not even like going deep into Bitcoin, but the problems and all that. People get bored. They're like, no, 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 let's talk about something easier, like, something more digestible in a way. For me, it's like, so I enjoy this conversation so much. I'm a bit obsessed, and then I want to talk about it all the time. I want to see how the future is going to change, how culture is going to change, how Bitcoin, or actually the monetary system we use, is like the base layer, and everything will move if you move that base layer. So yeah, I love, well, if I can talk about like particular experiences, like for me it's been great to be able to have been part of some Bitcoin conferences. That's like something I really really enjoy. I would go to all of them if I could. I love displaying my art there. I love hearing like the critiques and the comments and talking to people. Yeah, that's a very, very joyful experience.
Okay, so if we go back to your art, because you are an artist, like a Bitcoin artist specifically, so would you say that I see, like, for example, you meant like some of your art depicts Ross. So how do you see that the freedom relation with Bitcoin?
Well, I think Bitcoin is freedom money. Um, so I think that Bitcoin gives us the possibility to separate money from state. So if we do that, so the state can't control money, there is at least one less thing they can use to control population. So in my head, I'm very extremist, and I think it's either Bitcoin or slavery. So if you only have those two possibilities, Bitcoin is actually freedom. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So I think it's today is actually here is already 27th of March. I think they're in Chile, so maybe tomorrow. It's the 40th birthday of Ross. So shout
Yeah.
out to Ross, and hopefully it's free, because he's the first who actually created like an actually free market, like in terms of the aspects, especially with money, right? Because there is nothing free without money. As you mentioned, like it's almost like slavery if money is controlled by the state totally. And then, especially right now, they proposing the CBDCs and all these things to basically give no room, even like even the cash itself, which they control, it's not enough for them. They want to basically know where every cent is going. So yes, hopefully Bitcoin saves us from this. And yeah.
This episode is sponsored by DegreeSign.
CoinExams platform was purpose-built by DegreeSign to be one of the best-performing platforms in the crypto space.
DegreeSign is an agency developing web products with a long experience of building products from scratch for maximum performance and stability.
Start today. Just email make@degreesign.com.
What would you say is the challenges? So it's a bit of a difficult question, because I understand like you love Bitcoin a lot, but what would be the challenges that a Bitcoiner or someone who uses primarily Bitcoin has over like someone who is not using Bitcoin at the moment?
Well, at the moment is that you are part of a society. For me, it's really hard. I'm trying to move to the Bitcoin standard as much as I can. All my salaries are in Bitcoin, and I'm just achieving this because I have a lot of support from my family. If I moved back to my parents' house a couple 1 or 2 years ago, I don't remember, because of personal stuff. And after that decision, I actually said like, okay, now I really want, like, I'm being in this very very like I'm being so taken care of. This is the moment where I have to try to be on the Bitcoin standard the most I can. I have to try to find Bitcoin jobs. I have to try to move my art more, and that has been my goal for the last 2 years or so. And that's how I got to find those amazing jobs that I work for. But it is hard because you have, I mean, if you have everything in Bitcoin, if you are in the Bitcoin standard, then of course you have to sell, because there are some things that you are forced to pay in your local currency shitcoin. So that's like really painful. I'm not very good at buying stuff. Like I don't buy a lot of stuff, so that doesn't hurt me that much. And I'm looking for alternatives. I'm seeing more and more options. Like people are coming up with these debit cards that you can have like with Bitcoin, and then you can pay with the like regular machines, and they convert it and whatever. I'm looking at those options, but there are some things like your bills or stuff like that you can't actually, here in Chile at least, pay with Bitcoin. So I think that that might be where it gets a bit hard. And for example, in my country, every time you pay with Bitcoin, it counts as if you were selling it. So you have to declare each small payment and then like
So it's like the
pay
capital gains
taxes.
tax.
Mhm.
I see.
Yeah, nobody actually does, but they could actually come to your home and say like, okay, you owe us this much,
Yeah, it makes
blah
it
blah
very
blah.
unpractical because yeah. Okay. So you mentioned about like using it, but also maybe some other challenge is the price fluctuation. So how do you respond to people who say, okay, but the price is unstable, so it's not easy to use? Do you think this is like a challenge, or maybe this like just a temporary challenge?
Yeah, the price is volatile, but upwards. It depends how much you zoom out. For me, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, and at the end of the day, I only want to have more sats than the day before. So I try to stack as hard as I can. I don't really care. I don't really care about that
Yeah,
much,
but if
and I try
someone,
to
for
not to
example,
suffer.
but if
Mhm.
someone is, for example, wants to pay employees in Bitcoin, let's say, or even charge their services in Bitcoin, it would be like up until now, I think most of the people who are selling something using, I'm not sure about your art, but I think most people, what they would do is that they put like a price in dollar and then they
Mhm.
get the equivalent in Bitcoins, right? So uh,
I denominate in dollars too.
I
Mhm.
see, I see. Yeah, yeah. So, for example, for my service, I dominated in Bitcoin, and then so my service price is always going up. So it's sometimes maybe very bit slightly unpractical, especially if the price fluctuates. Because yes, the
The
price
thing
is going,
is,
yeah.
If you denominate in Bitcoin, you have to be in the Bitcoin standard, then you are in a deflationary scenario. So of course your prices are going to go up. So then it's the same as we work today. Like we are used of, for example, here, like today with inflationary, we're used of people like raising prices. I believe that after hyper-Bitcoinization, we for us it will be normal that prices go down. Like you have, as your business, for example, will have to charge less sats each year for the same service, because each sat will be more valuable every day. You know, like
Or it could be
salaries
just
will tend.
almost stable because if you think about it, like right now, what's happening is that like the dollar, for example, at least until recently, it was just each year is depreciating maybe 2% or 3%. Now, obviously, it's much more than that. Like they say it's 8%, but it's almost like 50% if you look at the actual purchasing power. But and the salaries are increasing as well to match this inflation. So I get your point that we will have maybe to reduce the prices for the services to if we are using dominating it with Bitcoin to basically match. But also consider that if Bitcoin is like adopted by the masses, let's say hypothetically 100% of the people are just using Bitcoin around the world, it's not going to appreciate as much. The price is like the curve. Even right now, you can see the Bitcoin increases are like very different from like let's say like, over the last decade the increases were like maybe 100x. Now maybe it's just 10x. Maybe in the future the increases will be very, very minute because everyone is already using Bitcoin. So maybe the increase in the value of Bitcoin will be the same increase in population. So let's say, for example,
Yeah.
the population increased like 1%
Mm.
this year or 2%, then maybe the price. So it might actually be that at the end of the day, it's like not much even deflation. I'm not sure. But I just think it's only fair. Like, let's say, for example, especially if I'm paying someone working for me, that if I'm dominating in dollar, it means that tomorrow I'm paying him less or paying her less, right? So it only makes sense in my view. But obviously, it's not very practical for most companies, I understand. Okay, so what is the lessons that you would say you learned from Bitcoin? Like you said, freedom. Is there, or maybe also like sovereignty? What other concepts
Yeah.
think the community for Bitcoin projects or like fundamental value in the Bitcoin
Yeah.
community?
Well, I think I always have resonated with the idea, like I didn't know before how it was called, but I was always like very low time preference kind of person, and my family too. And I think this was like an inherited from my grandparents. Like we are, my family comes from many countries. Like we are sons of the immigration. So I think that sometimes those kind of things, like you get to inherit them, like. I don't know if for example, when my grandparent came to Chile, his family, he was a kid, but his family was like escaping from a really bad situation in Spain, and they came here and looking for a better life, but a lot of work. It was like a really hard life. Like they had to build everything from scratch. And then I think those kind of things you inherit. And I think we always had this like kind of savings mentality, but with Bitcoin it got much more like, well, it got stronger, and also we kind of put a name to it and we could like understand it better. Yeah, I think that's always something that I really like, and I would love to see a society where more people are like a long time preference kind of people. But also I see other things. I see that the kind of competition in the Bitcoin space is different, is more from collaboration, more from like we all want to, at the end of the day, we all want Bitcoin to succeed. We are all in a way helping each other and trying to make this actually a better world. And I don't see that in fiat world. Also I have seen that the culture in companies is very different. It's much more understanding and much more like, I felt like a number even in a small company that I used to work. Like they don't really care. And what you just said, but for example, you're working and you're creating value and you want to pay in Bitcoin and denominate in Bitcoin because you respect the other person and you don't want to pay them less every day. In the fiat world, you have to fight for that. You have to like, oh, please give me a raise. And it's not really a raise. It's like, pay me the same as last year, asshole. So that's like, you have to fight. And then there's always like this bad relationship where you don't have, but you end up like kind of hating your boss and he hates you and blah. Like it's, I don't know.
Yeah, I
And I
think
see that.
with Bitcoin, I guess like there wouldn't be a need for any raise because you are getting unless you obviously you get a promotion or like you're doing something different. But if you're doing the same job, you don't need any raise, even if you work for 20 years, because basically automatically matching like your value and keeping up with inflation and everything. It's even better than inflation, at least for the next decades, probably is going to beat inflation. You have your Twitter, right? And maybe you have your YouTube channel. Is there any other things that you want to shout out?
Well, my website is ungovernable.store, and there you can also like see all the projects I'm working on. I'm trying to keep that updated and see the collaborations and stuff like that. And yeah, my Twitter is at Flo Montoya _. And I also use Instagram, and you can write me on whatever platform. I'm also in Noster. And yeah, I'm always happy to just connect and to talk about Bitcoin and Bitcoin art.
How about like upcoming, because you are part of like some events for Bitcoin. So is there any events that you want to shout out?
Well, from one of the jobs I work for, which is Love is Bitcoin, we are working on a very cool halving party, and we still have some tickets available. It's not a huge event, but it's the kind of event you can take your girlfriend or boyfriend who is not very sure at at Bitcoin, like who is just maybe starting to learn, because this will be the fun aspects of it. It will be just enjoying, getting to know other people, getting to know experiences like rabbit hole stories. And yes, there will be some technical talks, but in a very, very friendly environment.
Thanks for coming on the podcast today, and yeah, have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.